3B, consideration of an action on authorizing execution of a construction contract in the amount of $115,870.18 with Green Orange Construction Professionals, LLC, for materials and labor for the temporary gun range, CIP MU 1807. We've got Lane Wolf, Manager of Vertical Construction, and Scotty Schultz, Assistant Chief of Police. And we've got Chief Brinkley coming down with them. So we got everybody. Lane, Scotty.
Mayor, Council, good evening. We don't necessarily have a presentation because it wasn't consent agenda. However, I can address some of the questions that have been posed. In 2006, we lost the range that we had that was actually on Imperial property, and we started looking for another range. There are two in the Fort Bend County area. Rosenberg has one, and then Richmond has one as well. So we began using Richmond's range because it was actually the closest and it was the most available at the time. Richmond range has about 30 different law enforcement entities that are currently using that range, including Sugar Land Police Department. These entities range anywhere from 15 to 20 law enforcement officials up to 30 and 40, and then Sugar Land with 172. Richmond range only has 12 lanes for officers to shoot. And when we qualify, we have mandatory qualifications through the state once a year. It actually takes us 2 weeks of getting officers out there to actually get them qualified just because of the small range. And then trying to actually schedule any additional training is impossible. So we have the opportunity to qualify once a year, which is the state mandate, and that's actually it. Regarding the Sugar Land officer that owns the range is actually at Eagle Lake, which is way further than Richmond, and I believe it's a policy violation for us to contract with a city employee for services. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scotty. Lane, anything to
add? Regarding the term temporary, the whole entire design process on this range and the choice of materials that we used is to last for a period of time until the permanent gun range might come online. That could be anywhere from 4 years, 6 years, 8 years. So we're using the best materials we can with the budget that we have so that we can have a range that will last that duration. But even once we start work on a permanent gun range, this is a range that is positioned on the site so it can continue to be utilized. And right now, for example, the SWAT team, I'm coordinating with them at the Central Prison Unit so they can practice with their explosive ordnance and door breaching and things like that. That in turn, operations like that could be used at this temporary gun range. Other things such as large-scale props could be used. They could pull onto the gun range with cars and things of that nature. So we have the term temporary, but it's really not. It's a long-term investment until other things happen.
Thank you, Lane. Chief Brinkley, anything to add?
No, I think they both adequately described the intentions for the range. As well, typically, police departments also have 2 or 3 ranges as well, a long firearms range or rifle range, but also a handgun range. I definitely echo what Lane says. This could be used in the long term to our advantage. The city is growing. Our needs for a gun range has always been there since I've come in 2005, and this is sorely needed, and we're way behind the curve providing this type of services and facilities for our officers. So,
thank you. Question, Mary Joyce?
Just one question. The budget is $250,000. Have we utilized any of that? And if we haven't, what is that anticipated to be used for?
There are several aspects to the gun range. The first one being the site work to prepare the site. That area is toned to when we have heavy rains and flood. So we are going to be building up the site 30 inches and then grading it and so that it properly drains and it can continue to be used even directly after a heavy rainfall. We have the purchase of the backstop and sidewall materials. We have the labor to install that material. We have the sand that fills all the crates that helps create it. We're giving them a hardened surface so that they can train so they're not, if it does rain, they're not training in mud. It's a 4-inch crushed concrete base. And then any funds that are left over at the end of the job, we will help to kind of give them a more established parking area.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Follow-up.
Yes.
So what you just described right there, is that covered in this 115,000?
No, ma'am, that is the crates, the material, the labor to install, and the sand to
Sand.
fill it. It forms the base of the gun range.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bridget?
Of course, all of us here on City Council understand that safety is our #1 priority. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm scared to death after all the shootings in the schools have happened throughout our nation. And I believe that our police need to be very ready to go into any situation and be able to help our community and keep as many people safe as possible. And I believe that this gun range will allow our officers to practice more, and they need to be practice more. So I am all in favor of this, and I make a motion to approve.
Any other questions? Amy?
I've got several. First of all, you know from day one, I've wanted to have this. This is not a thing I've been against. I'm so for it. We've needed a gun range. I've been clear about that. I didn't like our men having to go to other cities because then they're not here to protect us. If the gun range is actually here in Sugar Land, if we have any emergency, they can come right here. So it always made sense. I'm probably on here the single biggest proponent, since I've been doing it for 7 years now, trying to get this. So I'm excited about moving forward with some kind of gun training here. One of the questions I have, and I have several, is just to clarify, where is this going to be located? You hinted at it, you didn't say it.
The location is the north side of the central prison unit. We have a field designated on the north side where all the buildings are. Beyond the buildings, we have a designated area that's part of the master plan for the training facility. It's located at the bottom corner of that.
Which was our whole one of our purposes in acquiring this land from the state, was so that we could create a police and fire training facility right there. And now this is the beginning steps after our being able to actually acquire that land.
That's correct.
So again, super excited about this. Now, you talked about 3 different types of ranges, Chief. What kind of range is this going to be? You said long range, you said handgun.
This is primarily designed to be a handgun range. Our maximum or minimum qualification for the state, actually, we have to go out and actually qualify with our service duty rounds, and that will be a Glock 9mm. We just transitioned from the 40 caliber round, but this will allow us to actually have, is it 25 stations?
25 stations at 25 yards.
Yes.
Which would make it much better for our 172 officers and much more accessible for them to get the training that they need, or retraining if need be, hoping they don't need retraining, but just in case.
And what we haven't had in the last 10, 15 years since we lost the facility at Imperial, we don't have the training. We qualify annually. Qualifications is totally different than training. So we haven't really trained our men and women. Very small amount of time to use Richmond's range with 30 other law enforcement agencies. So this is much needed capacity.
If there are 30 other law enforcement agencies who are hampered in the same way we are, will we make this range accessible to other agencies for rental or use?
Of course.
So then we can even benefit all of Fort Bend County simply by installing this handgun range.
We're continuing to look for opportunities to partner with other agencies. I think we've been in discussions with Fort Bend County, but also Missouri City as well.
Perfect.
But of course, we'll look for partnerships where we can.
Excellent. And then 2 more questions. One, why is this temporary? Why wouldn't we just build a permanent range right there?
I'll actually lay in to jump in a little bit.
That would be the overall cost of the permanent range. Right now, just to match what we have for a 50-yard range, you're looking at a cost of somewhere between $2 and $3 million.
To build a handgun range would be 2
To build
3
what we have planned in our master plan, a 50-yard shooting range with louvered covers and all the niceties, that plan is $2 to $3 million. The overall facility is closer to $9 million.
Okay, and
So
that'll be closed in, and this is outdoors? Is that
Correct.
okay? But what you're talking about would be a full facility, closed in, specialized?
Well, not necessarily closed in, but a louvered roof structure, yes.
So it's covered?
Correct.
Okay. And then I guess the last question I have is, and I hate that they beat me to the punch for moving for this, because this was my dream and it's beginning to come a reality, but why is it costing so much? Why is it $250,000? total? I know it's 115 now, but then it's total 250 once you get like all the other stuff that you were talking with Councilmember Joyce about.
So why, let me see if I understand the question. How do we just end up at these numbers?
Yeah, how
Each of these components are bid out according to the guidelines set forth by purchasing that we have to follow. So every component on this gun range, except for the purchase of the life safety exemption on this contract tonight, is being bid out.
that's where I was going with it, because both material and labor qualify for a public health and safety exemption, therefore we didn't require competitive bidding.
But we still did our due diligence and talked to their competitors and compared the same materials, apples to apples.
Thank
So
you.
we know exactly what those costs are, and even though we used the exemption, they were still the lower bid.
Thank you. And I wanted to clarify that. And can you just give us a little information about Defend Cell, because I've not heard of them?
There's two companies out there, DefenseCell and HESCO. Both of them work on the internationally. They have products that are used all over the Middle East, military bases. I think before that, this product was actually used as kind of a flood protection device. Just here recently, stateside, they've started using this product for gun ranges. And that's where we heard about it. Was a safety rep working with our police department said, I've got an idea. He knew about our design program for the gun range. And so he mentioned it, I started researching it. I went through the other company, I found out about DefenseCell, started checking with them. They were the two major manufacturers of this type of product used in this application. So research looked at, we formulated construction documents, we sent those to both companies. Both companies gave me a proposal on there. And it turns out that DefenseCell was the only company that had certified installers that could install it as well. The other company, HESCO, only provided material. There was no certified installer. We would have to go out, find an installer that's never done it before, and then HESCO said the only thing that they could offer us was we could pay them to send a rep down to put somebody through training.
Okay, well, then you've definitely made the right choice with this. Last question, promise. When do we picture this being done so our police officers can actually be out there training?
It's actually a fairly quick process. Right now, I have a site work contractor that's wrapping up the airport maintenance hangar. As soon as he's done there, he's planning on moving over and starting the site work preparation on this project. No more than 2 weeks there. We have the material scheduled to be delivered approximately May 10th, and that's coming into port here in Houston. Once we get that delivered out to the site, they're looking at starting construction immediately upon that time frame. Probably that puts us at the middle of May, 2 to 3 weeks installation there, and then final grading in the crushed concrete. So we're looking at probably middle of June.
I am so excited that.
It's kind of a quick process.
Yeah, no, by the time, before I leave city council, we will have that gun range that I wanted 7 years ago. Score! Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing on what Chief Brinkley was saying earlier. We can shoot handguns, but the safety factors that I put into the backstop and the sidewalls and all, the SWAT teams can actually use it up to 50 yards for rifle training as well. So there's an added bonus there.
Excellent, which we definitely need. We need this training. I'm obviously super excited about it. Thank you all for not having a presentation and yet managing to answer all of the questions. It's brilliant. And again, I wish I was the one making the motion, but you know you have my support and vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes, I echo what my fellow council members have said, but I feel so strongly about this gun range, I just had to say it, that I totally support this. I think it is critical that we have this gun range that is readily accessible for our police to train at, because, I mean, it is a priority of ours to keep our police safe and to keep our citizens safe. Thank you.
Alan?
Mr. Mayor, with the enthusiasm, I would like to share that we are also, with Lane's assistance, looking at the next project at the public safety training facility, which would be a fire training facility. And once again, we're attempting to try to do it at the lowest cost we possibly can and still have it be effective and safe. I hope that we're going to be able to come up with a concept for a burn facility that will be able to serve the needs of our fire department right here in Sugar Land that we have never had before. So
Where are they going now, Alan?
I don't, Richmond, Rosenberg.
Meredith, I see that we've
Okay,
kind
I'm
of drifted
sorry.
off the
Sorry
council
about
line.
that. Sorry about
Let's
that.
refocus the conversation back on the item
She's
at
going to
hand.
get me now.
So we've got, have we answered the question? Steve?
Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to withdraw my second and let my colleague Mitchell second this motion.
I will so second.
I've got a motion, I've got a second. Any other questions? If you'll vote at this time, please. And it passes unanimously. Thank y'all.